welcome to the channel. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about Pluto going through the sign of Aquarius, what that's going to mean collectively and also personally in your own lives and your own chart. So Pluto is such a slow-moving planet that it's considered generational. And the themes that surround Pluto are transformation, power, upheavals. Essentially, when it goes through your chart, like bringing up the dirt and the nitty-gritty. And what it really seeks to do is transform and move forward as we go through. So before we get to Pluto in the sign of Aquarius, let's just turn the clock back a little bit in the last few years of Pluto going through the sign of Capricorn, because let's say it's been a bit of a roller coaster in the last 10 years or so. Okay, so the chart I've got up here is that of the big one, which was the January 2020 Pluto and Saturn conjunction in Capricorn. Now, the reason why this was such a big deal for astrologers last year was essentially it's the two powerhouses of astrology coming together. And the conjunction in the sign of Capricorn, and Capricorn linked to, governments, hierarchy, structure, institutions. There's been a real upheaval in the last year or so. We've had the pandemic, we've had, structural changes in work and life. You've seen this in your own life. So even though this happened collectively, it has filtered down to an individual level. So we take the clock a bit further back and we go back to 2008 when Pluto ingressed into Capricorn. There was really was the beginnings and the rumblings of change, where we had the financial crash. So essentially, the growth of inequality. And you've got billionaire playboys, playing astronaut, while you've got people, starving. And it's really that inequity that is really highlighted as Pluto has gone through Capricorn. So again, we started with the financial crash, and now we're ending towards a pandemic, worldwide disruption, supply issues, essentially structure, Saturn, Capricorn at home, domicile. It's all about how we do things day to day and how the world is structured, how we get our food, how we structure our work lives. All those themes which Pluto has come through is now coming up for a review. And as Pluto goes through Aquarius, there's going to be big changes coming ahead. So another chart I want to bring up here, and especially for the United States, as I live here now, is going to be a big one, which is going to be the US Pluto return. And this is going to be around February 2022. But again, we've seen the rumblings of that over the past few years. So for the United States, the Pluto return, it's, again, the US is the global superpower. So whatever happens in the United States financially happens globally. And the issue with the United States is with the Pluto return, it's falling in what we've got here is the US Simply chart, the natal chart of the United States. And as Pluto ingressed into Capricorn 2008, it's gone into the second house of finances. And now, as the Pluto return comes along, we're going to be at the end of Capricorn in the second house, whole sign. So again, the themes of the financial institutions, hierarchy, all those things are coming up for review. And there's going to be a change as Pluto goes through Aquarius, predominantly in 2024 for the next, give or take, 20 years. So I don't know if I want to be here when the Pluto return happens. We'll see what happens. But we've seen the governmental upheavals, the violence with the capital riots. And really that went through after the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. We had Jupiter in there in the mix in 2020. And then we also had Mars as a trigger going through Aries, back and forth, retrograding, which was really winding up Mars as we got to the release in January of 2021. And again, we saw the political violence at that time. So interestingly, when we go even further back, we go to the American Revolution. So in the American Revolution, Pluto was in Capricorn at the late degrees when it started, but in the middle and towards the end, Pluto was going through Aquarius. So what was the American Revolution about? It was essentially us, the British, kicking us out and saying, enough of the monarchy and the hierarchy, we're going to kick your ass and send you back over, which you did. and essentially it was those themes of progression, liberty, and a collective sense of we the people, which ultimately became about, and how the United States was founded. And again, in the middle of the American Revolution, Pluto ingressing into Aquarius, and really setting the foundations for the United States into that we the people, taking control and getting away from the European monarchies and the centuries of kings and queens, doing essentially what they liked. and those were the themes there. So I've got another chart here we'll look into. In 1789, we also had the French Revolution. Now, Pluto was already underway in the sign of Aquarius, but again, this is looking back to look forward. Pluto going through the sign of Aquarius collectively, it's about that those inequalities or those hierarchical institutions or structures being taken down in the sign of Capricorn. And as we move into Aquarius, we're looking at more egalitarian ways of doing things, more collective ways. So in the United States, whether that's going to be the rise, which we're seeing the echoes of now, the beginnings of collective strikes, people coming together in the workforce to bargain and to really to push for more equality, essentially. And that can be, partly a byword for Aquarius is really the collective rather than the hierarchical structures of Capricorn. So those are the things we're probably going to see as we really shift into, it's going to dip in and out, but as we get into 2024, it's going to be fairly uninterrupted for 18 or so years as we go through Aquarius. So expecting those themes to come back up where, whether that's media, infrastructure, we've seen it now in the last degrees of Capricorn, people just don't trust the media anymore. So whether that's CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, all those corporate entities who are really looking out for the status quo and really trying to maintain the structure of how it's been going for the past few decades, essentially, to protect the powerful, to protect the wealthy. So whether that's a fair taxation on the billionaires, on the rich, or corporations where they're paying $0 in taxes, where the cleaner sweeping the floor is paying a higher rate of tax. So all those themes of equality and leveling the playing field are going to come around with Pluto going through Aquarius. And for me, that's only a good sign. So again, over the next 20 years, all those themes, those structural institutions, those changes, looking around the other end of the world, in my home country, which we had Brexit, which is an unmitigated disaster. Essentially, the anti-collectivism, which is nativism, which is cutting yourself off from the rest of the trading bloc in the European Union. And that's really, I won't get too much into the details, but that's going to backfire, and it has backfired with food shortages, medicine shortages, the lack of freedom of movement. There's going to be a blowback in the next few years, and especially when the elections come up again in 2024, unless it's enacted before that, you're going to see those themes coming back again as the world has to come together. Now, you can also look at issues like climate disaster and climate change. The facts are that it's real. It is man-made, and the younger generations are seeing this. So whether it's millennials, Gen Z, what are the name of the other generations? The younger generations that are starting to look around and see that the collapse of the environment and the systems. So there's really going to be a shift in change, and especially when millennials become more prominent in the electorates around the world, you're going to see that. And you also see this in personal charts. So not to make this a generational fight, but some of the shadow sides of Pluto in Leo is megalomania. So you've seen that with Donald Trump. He's a Leo rising with Mars conjunct the ascendant. Pluto in Leo, you see it with the president of Brazil, Bolsonaro. How do you say his name? Bolsonaro. I can't say his name. I'm not very good with languages. But the president of Brazil, the guy from Belarus, these dictatorial behaviors, trying to keep a grip on power, but it's all about individual power on the shadow side of Pluto and Leo. Again, that megalomania, trying to keep control and power. But as Pluto shifts into Aquarius, you've got that opposition there. So a lot of these themes, it's really that dying generation of trying to keep power in the shadow sides of Leo. With millennials, you've got a Pluto in Scorpio generation for the most part. So you can see the tensions there between the Pluto in Leo Pluto in Scorpio generation with the millennials. So you've got the square aspects there, the tension. So you can see why there's, has been a bit of back and forth between the generations in certain issues. But again, I don't want to make this into a generational fight, but it just shows the themes of Pluto, again, power and control. And as it goes through any particular sign, it looks through those different dynamics. Also, interestingly, we look back again and just different things that we might see changing technology-wise. So whether that's how we deal with currencies. So we're seeing the startup of things like Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. This is only going to become more prominent, I think, as Pluto moves into Aquarius. And, the petrodollar and all those institutions maybe start to falter. And we might see another financial crisis, all those different things. So the collective shift might be towards cryptocurrencies and those and a new way of doing things. So obviously the mainstream media and the status quo are trying to put a dampener on these new technologies and ways of doing things. But ultimately, they're not going to be successful in holding back the current. And you're not going to hold back Pluto full stop. That's just the fact of the matter. So again, just those new innovations. The biggest issue we've had is automation when it comes to jobs. So, whether that's the decimation of the auto industry in the United States, middle America, all those jobs now being automated, part of the angst of the white middle class, maybe part of the Trump phenomena, and all those different themes have seen automation. So as Pluto goes through Aquarius, we might see more equal distribution and how we use technology for the collective rather than the individual billionaires or the hierarchical structure. It really needs to be moving towards a more egalitarian way of doing things. So whether that's, enacting on climate change with new renewable sources, wind, solar, geothermal, all those kind of things will become more prominent in the next 20 years, because we can't collectively carry on as we've been going, because we'll see a complete collapse of the environment, and we're part of the environment, so we'll perish as well. So we'll definitely see a lot of changes. But again, speaking about innovation and technology, this is a very interesting chart we've got here, which was a big shake-up back in 1543, which was Copernicus's heliocentric model of our solar system. So the status quo, the renowned wisdom, was that the Earth was the center of the solar system, and again, a very megalomania, a very egocentric way of viewing the universe, that we're in the center and that everything goes around us. But really, Copernicus's model really challenged and shook the foundations of that. And we also see, again, Pluto going through Aquarius, and it was really a shake-up of that. We're not the center of the solar system. We're not the center of the universe. And again, that heliocentric model really challenged the established church at the time. And again, church being an institution, it really rocked, how people saw things. So eventually, that gained traction, and we do now realize that that the sun is the center of the solar system. So again, just going through those different themes of change, more collective ways of seeing things, more egalitarian issues. It's not to say that some parts of the world won't take a bit more longer, to catch up. I'm speaking from a very Western point of view. So we look over to the east, maybe in North Korea and places like that. It's not going to be every country goes into this, utopian, fantastic, progressive way of doing things. It's going to take time and incremental changes. But even places like North Korea or some of those, or Belarus, you might see the uprising of people as Pluto goes through Aquarius and just those different themes. So again, if you found this video interesting, it's going to be very interesting as Pluto makes its way predominantly again in 2024. And I believe we're going to see a lot of changes in the next 20 years or so, and for the better. So even though there's been a lot of upheavals in the last few years with the pandemic and everything going on, I am optimistic of the future, and I am optimistic it's going to be more for the collective rather than for the few. So thank you very much for watching the video. If you're interested, subscribe, sign up. You guys know the deal. And thank you very much for watching. Have a great day. Thank you.